Ladies and gentlemen, I want to read you a Bloomberg article regarding Twitter's second quarter $1.2 billion loss. This is an article in Bloomberg several months back. Twitter reported a net loss of $1.2 billion in the quarter, though credits most of that loss to a $1.1 billion deferred tax asset allowance. Excluding that tax expense, Twitter said its adjusted loss was $127 million, or 16 cents a share. Analysts on average estimated a loss of 1 cent. This is an article from Bloomberg. Twitter reports record user growth, explores subscriptions. So, this is the second quarter negative. The first and second quarters of 2020 were not very good for Twitter at all. They posted losses. I explained in my last segment, and I thank you very much for getting that segment viral. Hit subscribe to this channel. Get this segment viral. It's very important. I'll put the link below. According to Bloomberg and every other source out there, Twitter had a second quarter loss because of tax issues of $1.2 billion. And then if you want to just break down the numbers, it wasn't really just $1.2 billion. Actually, it was $127 million in losses. Now, this is with over $3.4 billion in debt. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Get this segment viral. Twitter reports record user growth, explores subscriptions. Well, so President Trump has basically single-handedly sent Twitter, or pushed Twitter, into bankruptcy in the next couple of years. Probably 3 or 4 or 5 years or so. Maybe sooner. Maybe past 5 years. Who knows? If you ban President Trump and every account, or you ban numerous accounts linked to President Trump, and conservatives and Trump supporters and independents and liberals are just deleting their accounts and leaving Twitter, you have a platform that's losing its relevance, especially when you ban the 45th president of the United States of America. Doesn't matter how Democrats feel about this man. You're going to actually limit your subscriber growth. Their business model is based on subscribers that they can monetize. Okay, there's a phrase that they use, but their business model is based purely on subscribers that they can monetize. 80+% of their revenue is advertising, and the rest is a very interesting, how shall we say? It's basically it's a way of utilizing your information to gain money, which is what Facebook does also. So your habits, how likely you are to buy certain products, that type of thing. Okay, so that's what these platforms do. They don't just sell advertising. They don't just make money from advertising. They make money from you. Information and data pertaining to you. What you look at, what you're likely to buy, and then they sell that data to other companies. So that's yet another reason not to be on Facebook and Twitter. I have deactivated. I left Twitter 2 years ago. Okay, I was telling people to get off Twitter for the past 2 years. But I just want to read you. So, Twitter reports record user growth, explores subscriptions. Now that you have President Trump, that's no longer going to be there. You're not going to have the most important element of Twitter, which is, what did President Trump say? And if you're for or against the president, or if you're for or against, or if you're supporting President Trump, or you have utter contempt for President Trump, his presence on that platform elevated the platform. They've just done themselves in. And they did so under the guise of protecting people, but they don't utilize the same logic against Democrats. Let me just ask you a question. And this is to all my viewers a question. Why is it? So basically, Twitter is a platform from the Democratic Party. It's become an extension, in a way, of the Democratic Party. Why is it that Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Biden or any other Democrat haven't taken a knee or kneeled during the national anthem? Why? So the question is why? I'm a Trump supporter, but I disagree with President Trump using certain words to describe people who protest. I wouldn't do it during the national anthem. That's another story. I disagree with the way in which he condemned or disagreed with the protest, because I don't think he should have used that word or the insult. But I wouldn't do it, and I know that it's not necessarily popular. Even within the African American or Black community, it's not necessarily a popular stance or activity during the national anthem. But my question is, why, if Democrats are on the side of protesters, don't they kneel? So it's not enough simply, if you just look at things from a political perspective, what are Democrats doing? They are not taking the heat. They are not destroying their political party by kneeling during the national anthem. If Nancy Pelosi or Biden took a knee during the national anthem, the Democrats would be done. They'd be done politically. Why didn't they take a knee? Why don't Democrats take a knee during the national anthem? I'm talking about Democratic politicians. We understand athletes. We understand a great many, primarily black athletes, are taking a knee during or have taken a knee during the national anthem in protest of police brutality. Just leave aside the debate over whether or not it's a good thing to do. The debate over the nature of the protest, leave that aside. Why do you think Democrats haven't? Why do you think Nancy Pelosi? I mean, they did another form of that, and they took a knee in reverence or took a couple minutes of silence. But why not during the national anthem? Why don't you think Democrats do that? They don't do that, ladies and gentlemen, because they have Twitter. Because they can go ahead and allow others, whether it's black athletes or any athlete or any person, to take a knee during the national anthem and take any political repercussions or consequences that result from such a protest. Democrats can say, well, we're not going to do it ourselves because that would be political suicide. But we're going to condemn Trump for condemning that protest or tactic, political tactic or protest. And we're going to straddle the fence, but we have Twitter. We have a cyber reality, a Tron. It's like an alternate reality. So here you have people taking a risk, engaging in a protest that's controversial. It's controversial politically and socially. And even though it's accepted by a great percentage of Americans now, it's still a controversial and it's a political risk to take. There are repercussions. The president condemned the action. A great many Americans condemned the action. A great many African American and black citizens don't like the protest. Jim Brown himself didn't like it, or said he wouldn't do it. But why am I spending so much time on this? Twitter is a way for Democrats to allow others to take the heat, to accept the consequences and repercussions of certain political viewpoints or behavior or actions, while at the same time deriving full benefit from the risk that others take. So it's like a win-win for Democrats. There's no question. It's not a coincidence that these social media platforms are run by just liberals, Democrats, who don't like Trump, who don't like Trump supporters, who don't like conservative values or viewpoints or a conservative ideology. So that's why they're blaming President Trump. So it's correlation equals causation. Whenever Trump says something, then if a bad thing happens, it's because of Trump. Whenever Democrats say something, a bad thing happens, you can't blame them. But why do you think that? So that's just the kneeling during the flag is one issue. The Democrats utilize Twitter. So what they do is they pontificate and they preach and they condemn Trump on Twitter. Doing so absolves them or gets them off the hook from actually engaging in the protest themselves. So people then say, well, Democrats are on the side of the protesters. Really? Why haven't they engaged in the same exact protest? Why haven't Democratic politicians during the national anthem actually taken a knee? They would never do that. They would never do that. There are a whole bunch of opportunities for Democrats to take a knee during the national anthem or during different ceremonies. They don't do that. Same thing with Medicare for All. I mean, that's overt. Why haven't Democrats actually passed the Medicare for All bill, or even why haven't they even voted for a Medicare for All bill on the floor of the House? Why are people going after Jimmy Dore? The reason is because there's Twitter. It's a cyber reality. It's Tron for disgruntled and apoplectic and fanatical and liberals who are basically dogmatic ideologues. Why do you think that they're petrified of even a floor vote? Why do you think AOC is against a vote for Medicare for All, even though she helped write a Green New Deal resolution, which was not legislation, it was a public relations stunt. They didn't even vote on it in the Senate. And so climate change is another way that they utilize Twitter and Facebook and social media. But why do you think they're not going to pass any Medicare for All legislation? They have Twitter. They don't need to. Every day, you know how many lives are lost? We don't have socialized medicine. We don't have Medicare for All. What are you talking Medicare for All? Medicare for All, single payer. And you have thousands of people, hundreds of thousands retweeting, oh my God, we need Medicare for All. But we need Medicare for All. And then AOC and Bernie Sanders, well, we might not have it now. And then you have all the $20 million venture capital people, you might not have it now, but you'll have it eventually. And people like Jimmy Dore are horrible people. The political influence we have is with the Democratic Party. Right? Twitter? Yeah. Retweet. And you see, there's a rule change, and one day we'll have it, but you can't. You can pressure them, but it's just not good if you act in a divisive manner. Yeah, retweet. And so it is a way to condemn Trump, not take a knee, condemn anyone who forces Democrats to actually implement Medicare for All, but not implement Medicare for All, and say, well, maybe in 12 years you'll have it. I was watching a segment from one person who was like, he was like, oh yeah, in 12 years it's gonna happen. 12 years. Okay. What do I care? I'm not on the left, but I used to be. But who knows what? There is no left in the United States of America. There is no left. But my point is, there's even though I'm all over the place, there's value to what I'm saying. There's an important message here. Why do you think they don't pass Medicare for All? Because they have Twitter. They live in a cyber reality. Any push, serious push, which is what Jimmy Dore is doing, is now marketed or through public relations on Twitter, through retweeting and condemnation and preaching and sermons. How dare you act in such a divisive way to force a floor vote? Don't you know that AOC and Bernie and others have said it's not possible right now? Retweet, retweet, retweet. We can go. Climate change, same thing. You know the climate, and AOC does this all the time. You know the climate, this and that. Blah, blah. Where's the legislation? But the climate's important. Climate change. So Twitter allows liberals to absolve themselves of any guilt while at the same time preaching. It's the perfect thing for apoplectic fanatics and ideologues and dogmatic phonies and racketeers and the biggest grifters of all time. I've been accused by people of saying, well, you support Trump for money. Do you think if I wanted money, I would support President Trump? I support President Trump because he's the best president of my lifetime, allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, signed an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses using the IHRA's definition of anti-Semitism, first president to step foot in North Korea, to begin détente between North and South Korea, reversed U.S. foreign policy that President Obama and Bush implemented to create never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts, ended officially the war in Afghanistan, removed Americans from Syria, didn't have a regime change or intervention that resulted in chaos and catastrophe, which is what President Obama did in Libya. We had record low unemployment for most of President Trump's tenure. And so he's a great president. But if the people who, the most lucrative political stance is disliking Trump on Twitter. And I haven't even had Twitter for 2 years. Because I don't want to live in Tron. You know, the movie Tron? Watch the movie Tron. Why would you go into a cyber reality when reality is tough enough for most people? If you live a happy life, and thank God you live a happy life, and you go through the ups and downs, normal ups and downs of any human being. Why would you then enter a cyber reality that's a cesspool and a cauldron, and a boiling cauldron or pot of negativity and discontent and oh yeah, well I burned, eviscerated, he was moted. In the 80s there were, hey there, no, Trump was eviscerated. He was excoriated. Oh, scorched. Everything is this sensationalized, absurd. Everything is this public relations spin because Democrats really don't have any specific ideas. They don't have any grandiose ideas that they actually want to implement. So it's always like, did you see what happened to Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and Trump on Twitter? Twitter is a platform for Democrats to live within. It's a cyber reality that props up the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is a hollow illusion. It stands for nothing. They cheated Bernie Sanders in 2016. They spent 4 years blaming Russia and Facebook ads for their election loss. And God forbid Trump or Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz, God forbid they make any allegations about this election. Oh my God. $1 billion in property damage and insurance claims, over $1 billion in the past 6-7 months. Oh my God, did you see what happened? And I condemn what happened the other day in D.C. But look, and now, and so they're silent about buildings and businesses being torched and vandalized. And now they love law enforcement. Isn't that interesting how Democrats work? But they didn't love law enforcement before. And just like they trusted against Kavanaugh, but they don't trust with Tara Reid. And then climate change. Oh, but they don't, a resolution. We can't vote on it. It was aspirational. These people are the biggest grifters of all time. The racket is like so The biggest racket of all time. Oh, then you have people that you know, and thank God I know who my true friends are and who people who just perhaps were good friends in years past, but now have just worshipped at the altar of politics. These people, by the way, generally, oftentimes are like atheists or agnostic, which is fine, totally fine. But their new religion is politics. So if you ask them about the existence of God, they'll be like, "Oh, come on, man, there's no evidence." And then you say in the next breath, "Do you think Trump worked with Russia?" "Yeah, man, James Clapper told me." I was like, okay. You make no sense, but that's fine. You have like these people who call you up and are, like, I just want to let you know I'm really upset with your support for Trump. Did you condemn President Obama for helping destroy Libya? What? It's like impossible. They don't realize their hypocrisy. And the funny thing is, like, I don't care about what their political views are, but like, Trump is a sociopath. Really? What did he do? Oh my God, the pandemic? Do you think there's any culpability or responsibility for the governors? No, all Trump. What about your mayors of your city or the governors of your state? What about the fact that most of the aggregate lives lost are in Democratic-run states, according to the New York Times. And the highest per capita rates, 8 of the 12 highest per capita rates, top 12, are in Democratic-run states. 7 of the top 10 aggregate lives lost are in Democratic-run states. Do the governors have any culpability or responsibility for their handling of the pandemic? No, it's all Trump. Trump did it. He injected them with, what? He told people to go to D.C. He told them. Through his words, it reached a homing beacon in their mind. These people liberals are radicalized by Twitter. Now that Twitter pushed away millions upon millions of people with their disrespectful, absurd decision on banning Trump, they've basically done away with any hope they had for a viable business model. You can't just alienate millions of people and have $3.4 billion in debt and have, by the way, this is interesting too. They have, in terms of debt, they have S&P assigned a double B plus rating to Twitter's new bonds in a Monday research note, one notch below investment grade. So if people say, well, when is he going to get to that? It's towards the end of the segment. Moody's Investor Services rated the bond, 2 notches below investment grade. So S&P and Moody's rate, and this was, the end of last year? End of 2019, I believe. And 2020 hasn't been good for them. And they have $3.4 billion in debt. And they might make a profit. The first time they made a profit after years and years was in 2018. And 2019, I think they made a profit. Although I'm not sure. But 2020, who knows? They might. But they're experiencing a great deal of problems. They lost money in the first quarter. They lost money in the second quarter. They made money in the third quarter of this year. But they're losing subscribers now because of this. And long term, does it make any sense if your business model is based solely on new users that you can monetize, that you have basically shut your platform, that you've basically alienated millions upon millions, 74 million supporters of President Trump. You've alienated that entire market. So how on earth are you going to make enough money to take care of the debt that you have, $3.4 billion in debt? So Trump is basically the end of Twitter also. Give me your thoughts below. Get this segment viral. Thank you so very, very much for getting my prior segment viral. And I'll be back, of course, numerous times today. Thank you so much.